everybody, I am Drew Duncan, and this is the Sync 57 Sports Show. A couple of things to get to today. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Davante Adams situation, charges being pressed against him. We're going to be discussing a little bit about Brett Favre. Not going to spend a lot of time on either one of those subjects, just to be honest with you. And we're going to be talking about how it looks like Cooper Rush is going to be starting again this Sunday as the Cowboys will prepare to take on the Philadelphia Eagles, who are still unblemished in the early part of the season at 5-0. All right, let's get to it. First of all, Davante Adams. Davante's issued a couple of different apologies in terms of the situation. There was the apology that he did right after the game when he was being interviewed in the locker room. He just said, look, I just want to tell that guy, I'm sorry. He jumped out in front of me and I pushed him. It wasn't the correct response. Then he did it again on Twitter. Hey, look, man, my bad. I shouldn't have responded that way. This is 100% my mistake. So Davante Adams, to a lot of people, these are BS apologies. They're insincere, whatever the case may be. You've got people in the comment section about Davante taking the guy out for dinner and all kinds of crap. Well, that's because you want to meet an NFL football player. That's what you want. Now, do I think that charges for misdemeanor assault should be filed against Davante Adams? No. He did wrong? Yeah. But come on, how many times have we seen guys push each other on the street and nothing happens? I understand that this is technically the workplace, but as somebody who's done construction, as somebody who's built horse trailers, as somebody who's worked in warehouses, I'm telling you right now, I have seen stuff like this happen on many occasions and nobody lost their job. There were no charges filed, and everybody went out with their day. And, two grown men just sat down and talked about, hey, here's what happened. Here's what led to this. Let's just move on. No big deal. But let's be honest. It's 2022. That cameraman has seen an opportunity. And, me watching that video, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this dude was either A, not paying attention to what the hell's going on around him and moved into position, whatever position he was supposed to be, and just slid around. Or option B, he tried to get directly in front of Davante, which by that time, Davante was so close to him that to try and walk in front of him just doesn't even make sense. So Davante pushed him out of the way. Sure, Davante could have just walked around him or like, dude, what are you doing, bro? And that could have been it. But when you look at it, the guy moves in front of position to Davante, right in front of him, and then immediately looks down, and as somebody who's been in journalism for years, probably either trying to listen to what some guy in an earpiece is telling him to do, or, try and adjust something so that way he can get the right shot of Davante as he's walking towards the locker room, trying to get that solemn look that people look for after a loss, right? They want to be able to put that picture up that shows an athlete, especially one as high up as Davante is, considered still by many to be the best wide receiver in the NFL. Which I've been telling people is a fallacy for a long time now. Him and him and Aaron Rodgers just works really well together. The point of what I'm saying is, as far as this situation goes, to me, they were both in the wrong. And this is all going too far, and we know where this is most likely headed. A lawsuit, and Davante is going to have to pay out of pocket. As if he's already not going to have to pay out of pocket to the NFL. As if the NFL is already not going to suspend him for a game or two. Now this is going to be blown way out of proportion, made more than it should be. I am not justifying Davante Adams. What he did was wrong. And yes, he should probably seek that guy out and just give him a face-to-face apology, a man-to-man apology, a phone call, something, right? He is an NFL athlete. He doesn't have a lot of time to do a lot of things that people are talking about. Man, take him out to dinner. Stop with that crap. That's just stupid. He could call the guy and just say, look, man, I was frustrated. In the end, there's really no justification for it. Whatever happened there, my mistake, bro. Can we just move on from this? But see, though, now that's not going to be allowed to be happening, right? Because now if Davante tries to get a hold of this guy, because there is official charges being filed, it could be seen as bullying, coercion, right? Using his status as an NFL athlete. So now all that stuff goes out the window. All of it. Because when something like this happens and the police come and talk to you, you know what they do? They say, hey, would you like to press charges? Because they are deciding whether or not they think there's a reason to press charges. But 9 times out of 10, and if an individual says, nah, man, I really don't want to press charges, I don't want anything to happen. I'll give you a really good example. Not quite the same situation, but here we go. One time, 2 similar vans. I was in mine. The other guy was in his. He got into my van and accidentally took off in it. When the cops came back, they asked me, hey, man, do you want to press charges? I said no, because when I went to go get into my van, I was like, wait a minute, this ain't my van. And it was his sister that ended up bringing the van back. And she's like, hey, I think we swapped vans. And the cops asked me if I wanted to press charges. Well, my dumbass was the one who left the keys in there. So again, that's how situations like that work. And he could have said, no, I don't want to press charges, but I do want to find him and get an apology from him. That would have been okay. We would have all understood that. Your perception of Davante Adams' apology is what it is. You may think he's trying to save face, and that's fine. I'm not going to completely disagree with that. But I am going to say that all this other stuff that people are saying that he could go and do and blah, 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 he can't do that now. Legally speaking, he cannot do it. There is probably a no contact order because in situations like this, anytime there's something violent, there is a no contact order. Anybody who's anybody will tell you that. They know that. My goodness, this is Law 101. This is stuff that we learned in psychology classes when I had to take them, because when I studied mass comm, they made us take psychology classes. They made us learn about lawsuits. They made us learn about all this stuff. So they don't have to press charges. He is seeing a quick way to potentially make a buck. And you know what? In the end, if it does go that direction, then sure. It is ultimately Davante Adams' fault. But don't tell me that this dude is not gleaming at what happened. Which, by the way, in my personal opinion, poor camera work from that guy. Absolutely porous. Davante was so close at that point that you weren't going to get the angle on that. Come on. And 9 times out of 10, you've got zooms, you got all kinds of things you could do, and you're trying to get depth of field anyway to create that blurred shot from the background. So come on. Don't pretend on some level maybe you didn't know what you were doing. Okay? Again, Davante, in the end, 100% at fault for shoving that guy. But so many wrong things here. Just come on. How about no? Okay? And for anybody saying, oh, man, that kid that ran out onto the field, yada, 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 and now he's got a really good shot. No, he doesn't. There's no media credentials there. There's nothing there, dude. He ran out onto the field, and he got tackled, and that's what happens to everybody else. Right? It happened during a Dolphins game. Dude got threaded then too. Okay? By 2 Dolphins players. So, let's just stop that as well. Okay? On the Brett Favre, Brett has, I guess you could say finally, released a statement. He says that he's not guilty. He didn't do any of these things. There are certainly some very damning text messages that have come out the woodwork for Brett Favre. The only possible thing that I could see as being wrong is, or in his defense, and I mean, this is the only even possibility, is that, hey man, maybe he thought he was doing something illegal in terms of being a booster for the university to try and get that facility built. That is about the only thing that I can think of. Outside of that, it really doesn't look good. The text messages have already come out. I know a lot of people are like, well, they tried to cover this up. Yet I wasn't aware that people who do things they're not supposed to do go out and shout it to the world, hey, I'm about to do something that I'm not supposed to do. Mike Vick didn't say that he was going out and fighting dogs. Okay. And which, by the way, we all need to move past the Mike Vick thing. All right. It's been over 10 years. I'm just saying as an easy example, it's been over 10 years. The man did his time. You all really need to let that go because damn, how long has that been? I understand people have an affinity for their animals. Pardon me. I myself have 2 dogs that I love very much. Would I do those things to those dogs? No, but good grief. It's been so long ago. So long ago. The man has done everything he can to change who he is. And I'm really just kind of over it. Okay, so let it go. In terms of Brett Favre, look, it's still under investigation. We don't know. Like I said, certainly the text messages are definitely damning. If he did it, to hell with him. As somebody who's been homeless, as somebody who's lived in shelters, I am the oldest of 7 kids. I know what it's like to fight for the last crumb. As somebody who didn't know when he was going to be able to, pay certain bills or whatever the case is going to be, believe me when I tell you, I'm pissed. I'm pissed at potentially Brett Favre, and I'm pissed at potentially the own Mississippi state government officials who were allowing this crap to go on, knowing that their own people are starving, knowing that they're in the poorest state in the country. So yeah, no, absolutely. To hell with them. If they did it, to hell with them. But I'm not in the court of public opinion. I let things play out. All I'm saying is if he did it, to hell with him. If those government officials that helped him had anything to do with it, to hell with them. I think that hopefully this will be a way to, if all parties considered are guilty, start getting us more aware of people in positions that we are allowing into positions by voting them in. Start taking a closer look at who we're allowing to make decisions for us. That's all I'm saying, and that's all I'm going to leave it at. I'm not a very political person. So that's that. Just like with Davante, for the most part, I'm just talking basic law. You learn this stuff in psychology classes. I have an award for a piece that I did on psychology of the criminal mind. Is a criminal born? Is a criminal made? It's the oldest question in the book. It's what's going on with Jeffrey Dahmer. People trying to figure out. And I'm going to tell you something. You don't want to know what makes somebody tick. Now, I'm just going to say that and leave it at that. You don't want to know what makes somebody tick. Because I'm going to tell you something. 99% of the time, they don't really have a justification. They just got to create one. So that way, maybe they can get out again. I'm going to let you know that right now. All right. Actual football here, which is what I love talking about the most. Cooper Rush, more than likely, is going to start. Dak Prescott, they're still taking a look at it. It is Wednesday. One of 2 things are happening here. The Dallas Cowboys are doing everything that they can to try and put out PR statements to make it look like Dak's not going to start. That way, Philly can't prepare for him. Or option B, we are going to see Cooper Rush again. And if he beats an undefeated Philadelphia football team, even if he plays mid the way that he has been, going into this last weekend, the guy was averaging 184 yards a game, folks. 184 yards a game. That is backup quarterback play. Backup quarterback level play. We're not talking about a guy who is incredibly amazing with his legs. He's not going to throw you off running the option game. He can get out and make some plays, don't get me wrong, but just about every quarterback in the NFL can. I mean, seriously, we've seen Tom Brady scramble for yards. If you're playing quarterback in the NFL, you have some form of athleticism to you. Cooper Rush is no Lamar Jackson. He's no John Elway. He's no any of these guys. He's a backup quarterback who's been in a really, really good situation. They really haven't played anybody of consequence. You could potentially look at that Giants game. But back-to-back years now, we have seen them lose to Tampa Bay. Now, I understand Dak was the starter in that game. But over the last few weeks, they have not played anybody. Does anybody look at the Giants and think, they can go to the Super Bowl this year? No, Philly is the remaining undefeated team right now in the NFL. They are the cream of the crop until somebody beats them. Cooper Rush has a very good defense. Ezekiel Elliott has been playing solid enough football. They've been doing literally just enough offensively to win most of those games. The defense has been putting them in positions to win football games. They've been creating turnovers. They've been making stops, a lot of 3 and outs. Special teams has put them in good field position combined with their defensive play. So punts are happening from, deep in their opponent's own territory, which, that's how you're supposed to play football. Do not get me wrong. But predicated upon that, they should be scoring a lot more points than they are. Okay? So let's not act as if, though, Cooper Rush is the next guy for the Dallas Cowboys, because he's not. And the moment Dak is ready to go, he will play. It does not matter that Cooper Rush is undefeated as a quarterback when you're playing like that. Okay? It's just not good enough. And I'm normally not a stats guy, but come on. He has missed some wide open guys. He's made some horrendous throws. He's basically Dak Prescott, just a little less, right? He's just not turning the football over a whole lot. He's doing what you would expect a quarterback who's a backup in that situation to do. Manage the game. We don't want you to turn the football over. We don't want you to put our defense in a bad position. We know offensively you're not going to be able to really make a late game push. We're not trusting you in that, at least to do it week in and week out. Standard backup NFL quarterback stuff, guys. Let's not all jump the gun on Cooper Rush, okay? I will give him credit for doing what he needs to do while he's in there right now. He's made a couple of good calls at the line of scrimmage. But anybody who plays in the NFL is better than 90% of the people who clearly didn't make it to the NFL in most cases. And the fact of the matter is, Cooper Rush has a real actual challenge in front of him. The Eagles defense has scored touchdowns off of interceptions. The Eagles defense has played pretty well, even though they've allowed some points. For the most part, they have played pretty good. Jalen Hurts has seemingly found his stroke. The Eagles are in a good spot right now. This game is in Philly, and if they win, they remain at the top of the NFC East. In addition, they are still going to be the number 1 team in football. Now, I know, Chiefs fans, chill. You've lost a game. Okay? You have lost a game. You are not undefeated. Ergo, Philly is the best team in football right now. Tua's out in Miami still. There's reports about him getting some throws in, but as of the moment, he's still not going to play, and he shouldn't. Yeah, they got to be extra careful with that whole thing, and really, he's got to be extra careful with himself. Look, I've said for years that players need to take care of themselves first. I have always argued that regardless of the injury, they often come back way too soon, and it sets them up for failure. You can't go until your body is healed. I broke my clavicle playing football. I missed the first 3 games of the basketball season as a result. It's just the way that it is. But I couldn't come back until I was ready. And I wasn't going to come back until I was ready. I was fiending. I was in practice, shooting shots with one hand, trying to hide the fact that, my shoulder was broke. The x-ray, the bone looked like an X, man. But, it is what it is. I wanted to be out there, but in the end, my body needed to heal 100%. Otherwise, I could make things worse. And we do that a lot of times with these players. And I agree with Dak being out another week if he's got to be. I agree with Tua being out another week if he's got to be. Folks, this is still Dak Prescott's team. And unless Cooper Rush throws for 400 yards against Philly, sorry, just not impressed, bro. 184 yards a game going into last week's just not going to cut the mustard. There's not a single coach in the NFL who's going to look at that and go, that's the guy I want to lead my team. Won't happen. Okay, this is not like the Matt Castle situation where Matt Castle was actually putting up numbers and winning games in New England. They still went 11-5 that season. And mind you, while he wasn't the best while he was in Kansas City, at least they were still going to the playoffs. 10-6, I think, his first season there. So the fact of what I'm saying here is both of them, if they have to, need to sit out. As of the moment, it's still Tua's football team. It's still Dak Prescott's football team. That's just all there is to it. Cooper Rush is not playing that great. He's playing good, not great. And honestly, he's not that much worse than Dak. Dak is just as mid. So even if they were to say, we want Cooper to be our guy, you've got $100 million to contend with now with Dak Prescott. And you have to ask yourself, who is capable and who wants to take on that contract for what is more than likely to be a backup quarterback in the future? After this, Dak is going to have maybe one season left where he can prove himself as a starter, even if he goes somewhere else. Even if by some miracle that is all able to go down and happen, he would have maybe one season. I'm saying the same thing about Baker Mayfield. I've been saying it all along. And even then, they would probably draft a quarterback next year, play a year under either Dak or Cooper, and move on. If they knew that's what they wanted to do. All right. Quick recap. Davante Adams, yes, he's in the wrong for that. Filing charges for misdemeanor assault and what'll probably turn into a lawsuit. Way too much. Stop pretending, though, that he can contact this guy at this juncture. Again, the psychology research that I did in studying criminal minds, there is going to be a no contact order. Okay? So that's done. Brett Favre says he's not guilty. The text messages that we've seen pretty much determine otherwise. If him and the people that helped him are guilty from taking money from welfare, which he says he has no idea that that's where that money was supposed to come from, bro, stop it. To hell with them all if they do it. I mean, seriously. In terms of Rush expected to start this weekend, again, it's not his team. It's still Dak's team. I don't care that they're undefeated with him. He's not playing the greatest football. He's being a game manager. It's exactly what's expected of him right now. And they're going to have to beat Philly convincingly, and he's going to have a hell of a football game for myself or anyone else to say, yeah, no, he deserves to take over the team right now. Period. We know that Jerry Jones is not opposed to losing money if he feels it necessary. But I just don't see that happening with Dak. I could be wrong, but you never know. All right, everybody, this is the Sync 57 Sports Show. My name is Drew Duncan, and as always, stay safe and take care of yourself.